Thank you very much for joining us at this hour. And our first topic of discussion is from Taiwan. Terry Gou, the founder of Foxconn, has announced his run for Taiwan's presidency. This is after his second failed attempt to run as a candidate for the KNT party. Gou is the fourth person to throw his hat in the ring for the January election. The billionaire announced that he will run as an independent candidate for the 2024 elections. He has pledged big things for Taiwan. However, the speculations around the candidature remain high. The big question is, how will it reflect on Taiwan-Chinese relations? Will the electronics giant founder side with China if he wins? That remains to be seen. However, Gou must gather close to 300,000 voter signatures by November 2nd to qualify as an independent candidate.
面对台海与中美关系的兵凶战危，台湾绝对不能成为乌克兰，我也绝对不会让台湾成为下一个乌克兰。
Gou stepped down as Foxconn's boss in 2019, the company known to be a major supplier to Apple with multiple factories set up in China that do not conceal an ulterior motive behind the elections. Gou has long had presidential aspirations but failed to acquire a running ticket from KMT twice in a row. Taiwan's electoral process has some peculiar characteristics. In Taiwan, citizens do not have to actively register to vote, as the household registration system takes care of that, making the registration process smoother and even easier. The electors still use the paper ballot method of voting. Electors are required to vote in person at their respective polling booths on election day. In order to ensure the political participation rights of indigenous and women, a number of seats are reserved for both of these groups in the legislative body. In order to ensure full accessibility of elections for people with disabilities, the election commissions not only provide audio electoral bulletins, sign language interpretations, and ballot slip covers with braille printing in polling booths, but also ensure that the booths are wheelchair accessible. To get a vote count, station staff are required to take each ballot out of the box one by one consecutively, read the vote out loud, and display it to the attending public witnesses. The final results are usually available within the same day of the election. The Counting and Information Center for Election provides the real-time election results to the public. One could check up-to-date polling counts through the Election Commission's website on election day, regardless of one's current location. The run-up to the election is taking place at a time when tensions between Taiwan and China are on the rise, following the latter's regular military exercises near the island to assert its sovereignty claims over Taiwan. Ross Darrell Feingold, excuse me for that, is a political analyst and is also joining us live from Taipei. Ross, good to see you and thank you very much for joining us on this show. First and foremost, how much of an influence is China on the Taiwan elections?
Certainly, the potential for war is a factor that weighs on voters' decision-making. China has not renounced the use of force to take over Taiwan, and that's probably one reason why the current government has not moved more aggressively to formally end what remains of ties between Taiwan and China from a legal sense. But the reality is, in 2016 and 2020, the voters elected the Democratic Progressive Party, which does not favor closer ties with China, and they rejected the party, the Chinese Nationalist Party, or Kuomintang KMT, that did favor closer relations with China. But again, the risk of war is certainly something that voters do have to keep in mind.
Ross, who is pitted to be the favorite candidate, and how influential are people like William Lai, who is currently the vice president, and now Terry Gou?
Lai is the vice president, and he's also the current chairman of the Democratic Progressive Party, and he's leading in most polls. He's their nominee for president, and he's consistently had a poll lead, keeping in mind that the opponents are a split field. Originally, there was 2 candidates. Now there's 3. So Mr. Lai, he polls typically between 35 and 40%, and the other candidates get the balance of the support and polls. So what does that tell us? It tells us that a majority of voters, at least at the moment, they don't want to re-elect the Democratic Progressive Party for a third term. And that's normal in a democracy. After 2 successful elections, voters might want to make a change. But on the other hand, with a split field, as of now, it looks like Mr. Lai is likely to win in January unless the opposition candidates could coalesce around a single candidate. Mr. Go is polling around 9 or 10%, so he's far from having any chance of winning the election. But again, if the non-Democratic Progressive Party candidates in the next few months could find a way to unify, and somebody would give way and say, well, I won't be the presidential candidate, maybe I'll be the vice presidential candidate, they still might have a chance of knocking off the Democratic Progressive Party. But as of now, that unity seems very unlikely, and that makes it easy for the Democratic Progressive Party candidate, the current Vice President, Mr. Lai, to win again. Now, Mr. Go, of course, he has name recognition, being one of Taiwan's most prominent business people, and obviously he's got a lot of money. He could self-fund his initial stage, which is, as you mentioned, he needs to get close to 300,000 signatures on petitions. Right. So he could self-fund that, and then he could self-fund a subsequent presidential campaign over the next 3 to 4 months. But again, he's polling so far behind the leaders that as of now, it seems very unlikely that he could win.
Ross, finally, and I want your quick reaction to this one. Whoever wins the presidency, what should be his or her first priority of business to bring about change in Taiwan?
Well, the first priority of any national leader is to safeguard the country. So defense preparedness, again, given that China has not renounced the use of force, it has to be the number one priority for Taiwan's next president. And although we often read in the international media about Taiwan spending more money on its military, they are far, far away from being prepared to repel a Chinese invasion. And anyone who suggests otherwise is not really dealing with the reality. So I would say the priority has to be national defense.
Ross Darrell Feingold is a political analyst. Thank you very much, Ross, for all your inputs and for talking to us today. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.